make their money for the day.
Family court officers impede our right to access justice, our right to self-litigate. We the people have a right to represent ourselves in court, but the courts are actually shutting down freedom, justice and equality by not allowing us to have access to the free court. The system is against families, against fathers and mothers. It has become the de-fathering, de-mothering centre, right here. If you behold children involved in the court, go for family mediation. Family mediation is the way to go. We are United Families for Justice. We represent white, black, all children. United Families for Justice, Kiwibank. Our fight, our right to family court justice. That's right. I have a son. He got involved in the family court process. Oh, how it broke out. We have to pay tens of thousands of dollars and we can get access to our own child. Once me and my wife got together, ex-wife now, we decided to work it out together, keep the cops out of it, keep the lawyers out of it, work it out together. Family mediation, that is the way to go. Dirty cops taking all the order community and all the agencies to uplift our children. Reforms and justice. We have a right to self-litigate. They make it so difficult. I've been working on a couple of cases and I represent someone as a Mackenzie friend. Letters to the judge and understanding the statute 78, guardianship rights, our right to access our own children. It is a no-brainer, and once you go through that process, you learn to understand it. But does the family court want you to understand how you can access your own children, how you can access the paperwork, and become a common law practitioner? No, they want to shut down that whole process, to make it as difficult as possible. Why? Because we're looking at the abduction of children in this country. Behind the scenes there's some horrific plans going on in this nation. And it's aimed at our children, our families. It's destroying the fabric of our society.
We express our New Zealand Bill of Rights 1990, our democratic right to protest. And Booker versus New Zealand Police Supreme Court of Appeal which says that we can protest. And we're protesting against the systematic abuse of the all-of-state approach to attacking us citizens and abusing our rights, especially when it comes to children and our families. And I'd just like to make people understand that the court is the head of this horse.
How are you? You good?
The judiciary are in charge. And they've been rubber stamping the criminal behaviours of Section 78, which is the removal of guardianship for years.
I like to keep them guessing what I look like.
And they're operating lawlessly and supporting the activities of Oranga Tamariki. Now we know this to be true because the government asked the Ombudsman to look into Section 78 and the removal of children in uplifts after the courageous efforts of a midwife in Hastings called Dr. Jean Tahuya and her midwives. And they stood down the New Zealand police that just operated like a pack of Gestapos, scavenging to try and grab this child of a mother who had just given birth in the hospital. And these absolutely criminal social workers that were operating in one of the most heinous crimes against a citizen that could be conducted, which is to take their child from the birth canal. Now, if that isn't heinous, I don't know what is. But we've got to make it really clear that Section 78, a removal of a parent's guardianship, is to be used at the end of the ability to be able to protect that child. And all other steps are to be taken first. Now this investigation by the Ombudsman was an ex-family court judge, which was a surprise. But he came out and said that Oranga Tamariki had been using social engineering and a Section 78 as a matter of course to remove children. And sadly, the statistics show that they had unconsciously, biasedly targeted Maori, and that's one of the reasons that Jean stood up and with the support of News Hub and Melanie Reid, they did the story which shocked the nation, but had been going on for many, many years. Now we cannot just stand by and say that the judges and the New Zealand police were doing their job. Because under the Nuremberg trials, just following orders is not enough. You know what's right, and you know what's wrong, and you must know that it's wrong to remove a child from a parent. You know, and I mean, honestly, watching that News Hub article, those social workers were nothing short of a pack of scavengers and hyenas trying to get that baby. And New Zealand's had enough. The thing is that we've known this has been going on for a very long time. And it's still going on. And so we went after the head of the horse, which was Gronier Moss, and we got Lambert as well, and we got Tracy Martin too, and in the protest we encouraged New Zealanders to get rid of their votes from New Zealand First, and they didn't get back into Parliament. And I just want to tell you, this is the power of the people. The people have had enough, and we're really, really getting antsy. And so you leaders out there that have been put in charge and voted in by our country, wake up. This is not finishing here. And if you think the New Zealand police and Oranga Tamariki are going to continue to bully us, we will use civil disobedience. Because we know what is right. and you've lawlessly come and destroyed families intergenerationally in New Zealand. And the thing is, we can't trust the impartiality of lawyers, because a lawyer's business is to make money out of the business of law. Their oath is to the bar, and you, as the client, are just the cannon fodder to produce the money. And so the problem is that when we look at the rules and regulations in the family court, human rights are being breached all the time. Like a 101 is supposed to be, which is, you know, a removal or forced adoption. Cases have been held in Europe in the Great Chamber of the Human Rights Court. And it says that an order like that is actually only a temporary order. It's a temporary order, and when the opportunity comes to return those children to the parent, that is to be done. But we notice that the state isn't doing that. And the judiciary is not operating independent of the state, but is being used in social engineering to harm our citizens in New Zealand. And our citizens that we're talking about are our most vulnerable, they're our children. And the parents are fighting as hard as they can to protect them. And we want to tell, and the reason we're here today, and who caused this protest, was those registrars. Now, 5 years ago, I came here to use the services of the Hamilton Court myself, and I ran into those registrars. And I'm telling you, registrars, pick up your game. Most of the registrars around the country are trying to help, but you need to understand, a lot of these people are trying to self-represent because the cost to use a lawyer or the quality of a lawyer under legal aid is so appalling, are already traumatised. And they are suffering secondary traumatisation by the legal process. Now, if you can't handle dealing with people that are traumatised, you need to move on. If you can't assist the public in trying to get natural justice, you need to move on. I have heard so many complaints about you two particular registrars that's been going on for years. And we monitor all around the country. Now the warning is clear. Don't read Booker versus New Zealand Supreme Court of Appeal. Nobody in New Zealand can hide. Now, I don't want to have to come back here to Hamilton and tell you people to pull your bloody socks up. Because if I continue to hear complaints about your registrar's performance in doing their duty to the citizens and the public of New Zealand, we'll be back. And you ladies know who the hell I'm talking about. I've got tape recordings of you people and how you're treating our victims. And Judge Collins, use the documents and support the people. You've been here long enough. You're supposed to be independent of the state. You're supposed to be independent of these registrars who haven't been doing their jobs. And you should be complaining about their performance. Right, so the other point I'd like to make today is the bullying report on the New Zealand police. You know, it seems to me that previously being a businessman, if I had bullying in my organisation and I didn't address it, I'd be in serious trouble. I'd be attacked by the employment law, and I would be breaching occupational health and safety. And today, as a director, that's a $250,000 fine. Up to. And I can't understand Mr. Costa, who now knows, which we've known for a very long time, the bullying going on in the New Zealand police. I've been on the receiving end of it. The New Zealand police have looked at my national intelligence database 1,800 times since 2014. Yeah. Why? Because your police were lawlessly using my children in a drug operation, Operation Standard. And there are officers here in Hamilton that colluded with Oranga Tamariki to create an abduction of my children in Te Ao Muru. Oh, and don't worry, I love British versus New Zealand police. I can't wait to find your house. The reality is, if Mr. Costa doesn't address this bullying, which is then passed on and our citizens are abused, then he's got to go. And I say to you that you want to target the gangs. Well, we are one of the biggest gangs in New Zealand. You know, there's 250,000 that you allow to be sexually abused in state care and faith-based care. And I think United has about 125,000 on Facebook spread across all the groups. And yes, target those people that are importing and supplying and manufacturing methamphetamine. I'm not. And you want to look at me 1,800 times. If the New Zealand police are going to target the individuals in New Zealand that are trying to speak up about these abuses being conducted by Oranga Tamariki and their lawless social workers, dirty cops and corrupt judiciary, then we are really got a war on in New Zealand. Because we are not backing down. Then none of us are going to back down. We've got nothing to lose. You've already destroyed our families and taken our children.